Welcome back, readers. It's me, Nicole. Today is another edition of our very special guest readers, so it's time to open your ears and listen along. Hello everybody, and welcome to English Story Time. Today we're going to have some stories about some puppet dogs and their puppet maker. And they all live in a beautiful stripy caravan at the bottom of the garden. We're going to start today by showing you a picture. Here is a picture of a dog. And our little dog here is looking into a box. And inside that box there are all sorts of treasures. And we're going to find out about what that puppet dog does with all those things in the box later on. Now we're going to introduce you to the puppets themselves, and I'm going to start off with the mummy puppet. Here is the mummy puppet, and her name is Sunshine. Hello, Sunshine. She's a very lovely dog, and she's got lots of little baby puppet dogs to look after, and now we're going to meet them. But before we do that, she has to go back into the big basket for a sleep. Okay, off you go then, Sunshine. The first puppet we're going to meet is little Dolly. Here she is. And she's a very sweet little puppet dog, and her favourite activity is chewing. She likes to chew everything, don't you? Yes, she does. And in fact, that's got her into quite a lot of trouble. And she's going back to join her mummy in the basket. And now we have the naughty puppy. He doesn't mean to be naughty. This is Rufus. He doesn't mean to be naughty, but he just can't help himself, can you, Rufus? No. Whenever there's trouble, he's right in the middle of it. Let's put him back in the basket before he does anything naughty. And here we have little Donna. She's the smallest of the puppies. She's a very sweet little girl. And sometimes Sunshine, her mummy, gets a little bit worried about how tiny she is. And she really worries if she's ever going to grow into a big dog. But Donna is a very sweet little girl, and she likes helping everybody, especially in the basket where she sneaks into the smallest space. Are you ready to join your mummy, little Donna? Yes, I think she is. And here we have our last little member of the puppet litter. This is a very special little dog, and his name is the dog with the question mark tail. He's called that because look at his tail. It's in the shape of a question mark. And that's because he's always asking the important questions, and he's always solving those questions as well. He's a very sensible little dog, but he is in all our stories being a wise and clever little animal. Aren't you? Yes, he's a very sweet little puppy. And there's one more puppy I'm going to introduce you to. This is Scamp. And Scamp actually isn't a member of this family. He is the dog who lives next door. He also likes to dig. That's one of his special treasures, is to go into somebody else's garden and dig up all the plants. And there is a story about him doing that. Yes, there is. But we're not going to tell that story today. Today, we're going to tell a different story. And I'm going to introduce the story by telling you about where they all live. And so now you sit comfortably, we're going to start. In the land of the Candy Cane Caravan, where everyone had exactly the right amount of wonkiness and everything was possible in the imagination of the puppet maker, there was a puppet dog called Sunshine and her family of puppies. Rufus, Polly, little Donna, and the dog with the question mark tail. There they are, all sitting in the basket. cane caravan was a workshop. Not any old workshop, but the workshop of a puppet maker. She had not always had this workshop. Before she'd been a puppet maker, she had travelled the world of work, because everyone has to make a living, even if all they want to do is to make puppets. Inside the door, there was treasure. Not gold and silver and jewels, but all the treasures a puppet maker needs. There were benches and tables and pieces of fabric, paint pots and brushes and big bags of clay, scissors and staples and mountains of paper, old plastic bottles and boxes of tape. There were pencils and cardboard, toolkits and drawings, odd bits of doweling and needle and thread, 3 pairs of glasses, 1 broken, 1 breaking, 1 chair, 2 mugs, and a put-you-up bed. Chapter 1. An unexpected arrival. It was Sunday, the quiet day. It was a Sunday much like all other Sundays, and the puppet dogs had been let out for their morning run at 9 o'clock sharp. This was the exact time which the puppet maker considered to be the right time for dogs to start barking near the neighbours. As usual, Rufus, the largest puppy, was the first one out. He had already been whining at the door for at least 10 minutes and had considered scratching it, but as he was also aware that this was against the rules of the caravan, he whirled round and round on the spot, sniffing frantically at the thought of the morning air which was seeping in through the cracks. As the door began to open, he bounded out and dashed the whole length of the garden, wagging his tail furiously. Every day he would stop at a specially selected part of the lawn, where he proceeded to paw and paw and paw the ground, doing little crossover movements with his front legs, finishing with a flurry at the back. Like all dogs, he loved to do this, and when he did it, he looked at the puppet maker as if to tell her why, but she had never really understood what he wanted to say. Next came Polly. She also dashed about excitedly, but she was more concerned with sniffing than digging up the lawn. She loved to feel the morning dew on her nose, so much of her activity took place in the flower borders. Sunshine was the next one out. Right alongside her was little Donna, the smallest of the litter. The steps to the caravan were really very high for her, so from time to time Sunshine would carry her down by the ruff which all puppies, whether real or puppet, have, and a very useful feature it is too. The last one out was the dog with the question mark tail. He had discovered that if he waited until the end, not only would he have a moment of peace in the big basket all to himself, but that he could quietly take any remaining biscuits that the others had left from the night before. The candy cane caravan was at the bottom of a very fine garden. Not a manicured garden with neat edges of lawn and flower pots all in a row, but a country garden where the birds came to look for seeds and hedgehogs could snuffle and shuffle under the tall grasses. You would be just as likely to find a sturdy beetroot shoot reaching up among the bobbing heads of the daisies as spotting a lettuce hunkered down between 2 stately delphiniums. But everything had its place and everything was just right. And here we have a picture of the garden. At the end of the garden there was a gate. On this particular morning, when the puppet dogs were considering their usual plan of crawling underneath and digging up the carefully planted onions in the garden next door, they noticed something was different. Thrown over the gate and lying on its side was a cardboard box. This was new. This was strange. This was unexpected. The dog with the question mark tail made the first move. Now this stripy little dog, who looked like a dog but had the courage and the coat of a tiger, was full of adventure. He stood on the big stone that was next to the gate, hooked his front paws over the edge of the box and peered inside. You could tell from the tilt of his head that he had found something very interesting inside. He looked towards the candy cane caravan as if to alert the puppet maker. She was sitting on the steps drinking her tea and reading her paper with the glasses that were nearly broken and was rather distracted. One by one, the other puppies walked over to the box to investigate further. Some sniffed it, some nudged it, some pawed it, some licked it, but Rufus, who had been waiting all night to go outside, lifted his leg on it. Now, the big difference between a real dog lifting his leg and a puppet dog lifting his leg is that when a puppet dog does this, nothing comes out. Even so, Sunshine, who had been watching all the puppies, shouted at him, "Rufus!" which in dog puppet language meant, "You naughty boy, don't do that!" And while Rufus wandered off to find somewhere else to perform his ablutions. And here he is, naughty boy, lifting his leg on the box. What a naughty puppy. The dog with the question mark tail began to nudge the box towards the caravan. The puppet maker, who by now was fumbling in the grass for her glasses, looked up. She ambled over to the dog with the question mark tail, picked up the box, and took it over to her work table. What she found inside made her imagination come to life. There was a wire coat hanger, a pair of old slippers, a newspaper, a plastic bottle, a jacket with black buttons, an almost empty box of tea bags, and 2 well-chewed tennis balls. The puppet maker smiled, eyes twinkling with creative ideas, and she shut the door to the candy cane caravan, leaving all the puppet dogs on the steps outside. There they are, all waiting. I wonder what she's doing inside. There they sat quietly and respectfully until it was nearly dark. They sat very, very quietly and very, very respectfully, but coming from inside the caravan there was a lot of noise. Banging and bashing and drilling and the gentle purring of the sewing machine. What was happening in there? The puppet dogs waited and waited and waited. Puppets are always very patient, which is an entirely good thing. A light went on inside and the dogs waited some more. Then the sounds changed, and instead of banging and bashing and drilling and purring, there was crashing and dropping and breaking and smashing. The door to the caravan swung open, and inside there was mess everywhere. One of the puppet maker's mugs was lying in pieces on the floor. The startled puppet dogs crept inside, huddled together in the big basket, and looked around. Sitting on top of the table was a new puppet dog. Sitting on the chair was a smiling puppet maker. "This is Oliver," she said, grinning from ear to ear. "He's going to be living with us for a while." And here he is. The new dog looked up. The new dog looked around. Here he is looking around. The new dog made his decision, and he jumped. He jumped over benches and tables and pieces of fabric, paint pots and brushes and big bags of clay. He jumped scissors and staples and mountains of paper, old plastic bottles and boxes of tape, pencils and cardboard, toolkits and drawings, odd bits of dowling and needle and thread. He jumped 3 pairs of glasses, 1 broken, 1 breaking, 1 chair, 1 mug, and that put you up bed. And in a surprisingly enormous jump, he leapt off the tabletop straight into the basket of puppies and landed on Sunshine's head, from whence he tumbled onto the floor. There was a gasp. They all looked towards Sunshine and down towards Oliver and back to Sunshine again. There was a moment of difficult silence, and then Sunshine burst out laughing and they all joined in. The new dog jumped back up, squeezing himself into a tiny space in the big basket which the other puppet dogs had made for their new companion. Oliver found his spot next to the dog with the question mark tail and fell fast asleep. He was definitely one of the family now. And And how did the puppet maker create this jumpy little puppy out of the contents of the thrown away box? If you ask nicely and say please, someone will tell you. And here he is in the basket, fast asleep, with all the other puppet dogs looking and loving him already. And here he is for you to meet. Here he is. His name is Oliver. Are you a good boy? Oliver, are you a good boy? He's a very good boy. And that's the end of our story for today. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week at the same time. Bye-bye for now.